I give you my RV-12. Wait a minute. Rewind. Close the hangar door. Let's talk about why I picked my van's RV-12. Let's take you back to the beginning when I thought about building and how I built the RV-12. So why the van's RV-12? That's a good question. I asked myself that a lot of times before picking out the RV-12. Vans offers the RV-14, the RV-12, the RV-10, the RV-9, the RV-8, the RV-7, RV-4, RV-3. I was just looking for an airplane that would be good on fuel economy, easy to fly, and fun to fly. I didn't need aerobatics, but I wanted to have side-by-side seating. Because the RV-12 is an ELSA and not EAB, which is experimental adventure built, it does not conform to the 51% rule, which means the builder must complete 51% of the aircraft himself. Now that didn't really matter to me because I did plan on building the whole airplane myself, but it was one of the other features that was more interesting to me, and that was the requirement for no medical. And as you get older, you just never know what can crop up. And I didn't want an aircraft that I couldn't use because of a medical condition. As long as you have a driver's license and at least a sports pilot license, you should be able to operate your light sport aircraft under day VFR. And so that appealed to me. Now the RV-14 and all the other airplanes don't conform to the LSA standard. So that is probably why I looked at the RV-12. December 2013. I decided to fly to Vans Aircraft in Oregon to look at the RV-12 in person. In July of 2014, I ordered the tail kit after I got back from Oregon. A couple weeks later, the tail kit showed up. I helped the driver unload it. Inside were all the components needed to build the tail, which is called the empennage. The very first components I built were the rudder hinge assemblies. In the box contains the stabilator, the rudder, vertical stabilizer skins. Put it all together and you have a completed empennage. March of 2016, the fuselage kit delivery came for the first fuselage, the RV-12. Classic, as it was being called. Inside were the parts necessary to build the fuselage. I started to put some of the parts together. There's lots of rivets. You put the main frame together first, and then you basically add on components to it. I did a lot of priming, and of course you wear a protective mask, and peace. Completed assembly of the fuselage. September 2016. Wing kit delivery comes in 2 boxes. The main spar and the skins. Of course I had to prime all that stuff, including the top caps of the spars. All the aluminum needs to be deburred because of possible fatigue cracks from sharp edges. So I used a Scotch-Brite wheel on a drill press. It is totally optional that if you wish to prime the interior of your aircraft, you may do so. There are many suggestions on whether you prime or not prime. I come from a background of transport aviation, and All the aircraft that are in the airlines that are flown and maintained all have interiors that are primed. So, and that process is done for me. They use a chemical process that etches the aluminum, and then I dip it into water to stop the process. And then basically hang it up, let it dry. This is an aircraft grade primer. It's a 2-part epoxy primer. This is the process I use, which is pretty much put on a bench, spray. It dries really fast. So I sprayed it, let it dry for a little bit, flip it and spray the other side. And this is the process I use for pretty much all the interior parts. A stack of ribs ready to be installed on the spar. Installed ribs on the spar. And it's always good to have a helper. And my daughter stopped by and put her to work. She was a good helper. She helped me quite a bit. That is the left completed wing. One thing you'll find when you build at home is that you run out of space really quickly. Okay to put the wing on the porch. So that's where it stayed one winter. June 2017. Finishing kit was delivered. In the finishing kit, there is the canopy support, the rear window, and the bubble part of the canopy, among other things like steps and a fuel tank. But wait a minute, something just crazy happened. I gotta stop and take you back to my original thought process. Back when the original RV-12 came out, it was the carbureted version, the 912 Rotex, the engine manufacturer, had put out an engine that was electronically fuel injected, that was controlled by an ECU. However, at the time, it was not available for the Van's RV-12. In reading through people's comment on Van's Air Force, there seemed to be no way that Van's was going to be able to incorporate that into the original build. And so on July 19th, 2017, I was looking at Facebook, and this message pops up, which basically said the Rotex 912iS will not be available for your RV-12. Well, I was very excited. Now I hadn't got the engine yet, so I said, great, I'll just order the fuel-injected version of the 912. Little did I know that was not possible, because in reality, when Vans decided to put on the 912iS on the RV-12, they ended up having to redesign the entire fuselage. So the fuselage I just built was totally incompatible with the 912iS engine. So needless to say, I was a little bit sad. But not being one to give up or deterred, I decided I'm gonna go to Oshkosh and look it over and see what I think. So I took myself and drove to Oshkosh, totally unplanned. I think I stayed an hour away because you couldn't find a hotel room at all close by in Oshkosh. Never can if you wait for the last minute. I think I was an hour away. I don't remember the hotel. So I strolled up to the Vans booth. After I got there and parked the car, found the new 912iS RV-12, and I was in love. I definitely had to have this airplane. There's so many new things in this airframe that are different, that make it a better build. So I think I'm gonna put down a deposit at least. So I decided to put down a deposit when I was at Oshkosh AirVenture 2017. I took my old fuselage to my in-laws because they had more space. As you know, I ran out of space and I'm gonna build another fuselage. So thanks to my in-laws, put it in their garage and they were quite happy to have it there. Thanks. November 2017, the new fuselage arrives. The IS fuselage. Kind of looks similar to the old box from the fuselage I just built. Inside, all the pieces again for the fuselage. Looks very similar, except for the new fuel tank design, which is now a transverse fuel tank instead of a fuel tank just dedicated on one side. Got to go through the process of mass drilling all the holes, lots of drilling, lots of clecoing. I took my original roll cage from the old RV-12 fuselage and used it on this fuselage because I thought it'd be cool to have something from the original fuselage that was compatible with this fuselage. And there's absolutely no difference between the two roll cages. March 2018, the IS finishing kit was delivered. And since I already had the old finishing kit, I had some components that were compatible with the new build. One of the things that is not compatible is the new cowling design, so I ended up getting new cowling, along with other items that support the cowling, like the NACA ducts. So you might ask, what happened to the fuselage from the original build? I sold it to a nice guy up in Canada. Came down with his pickup and picked it up from my in-laws, and off we went. One of the more challenging portions of the build is the fuel tank. Not because of its complexity, it is relatively simple, but because of the sealing that has to be done. Some people call it Pro Seal, which was actually a brand name. Wait about a week, 2 weeks, and you do a leak check, paint it if you'd like. Part of the process of building this kit is bending aluminum tubing to certain dimensions, and it can be a challenge for some builders. I'm not going to say it wasn't for me, because it was, but I did the best I can, and I have to say most of it fit pretty well. The original RV-12 finishing kit included unfinished main landing gear legs, so I had wrote to Vans and gotten the specifications of the dimensions they used when they powder coat the gear, so I could have the gear powder coated, because powder coating is now required, or painting. And I figured since I was getting it powder coated, I got the steps powder coated along with the grab handle and the open canopy handle. I finished building the main part of the fuselage and was able to put the gear on, the tires on. One of the more challenging portions of the build is installing the canopy without cracking it. It's made out of acrylic, which is very sensitive to temperature and can crack relatively easily. I tried to mitigate the chances of this by having a heater installed inside the canopy bubble. February 2019, the engine kit was delivered. This will be my last freight delivery out of all the kits. It is also the most expensive kit. Inside you have the engine, propeller exhaust system, cables. They even give you oil along with the engine control unit and the fuse box for the engine. Luckily, I had gone out and bought an engine hoist and some strapping to lift the engine out of its crate. Worked perfect. The engine is a Rotex 912iS electronically fuel-injected engine that is controlled by an ECU. Some people call it a FADEC. The engine comes with 2 redundant fuel pumps, one main and one auxiliary that are used to pump fuel into the engine. The engine has 2 generators in it, one solely dedicated to the engine and one available to the ship's power. The propeller is a Senchnish composite propeller. One of the many things that's be done during the build is drilling and fitting holes in the pre-formed mold fiberglass that they give you. In this case, I had to cut out the cutout area where the blades slip into. The RV-12 is unique because the pitot tube runs through the hollow crankshaft and is stationary, and the spinner rotates around the stationary pitot tube. March 2019. Time to move to a hangar. All the major components were built, and there was no more room left in the garage. I rented a trailer from Ohio Cat Rental, loaded the fuselage and the wings on. Off we went to the new hangar. Because of the design of the new RV-12iS, the old empennage or tail assembly was technically not compatible with the new fuel system. The new fuel system has a new skin. I removed the old skin and reinstalled the new panel with a cutout in it. The cutout is used for inspection of the fuel pump area and also doubles as the drain for the lowest point in the system to drain the fuel during pre-flight. In June of 2019, I received the last and final kit, the second most expensive kit, the AVIONICS kit, which includes all the epheses, all the autopilot servos, the autopilot head unit, the magnetometer, the backup battery, the engine monitoring system. You can order your RV-12 with either a Garmin system or a Dynon system. I decided to order the Garmin system. One of the disadvantages of owning a Garmin system is that you end up paying $100 to $150 more a year to install updates, whereas the Dynon system, the updates are free. But I decided to go with Garmin. I was familiar with Garmin. I worked on Garmin. November of 2019.
Where?
This was a historic time. First engine run. Started up with 1.5 turns of the prop. For safety, I chalked both wheels and tied the tail to the back of the truck, so there's no way for that airplane to go anywhere in case of brake failure. I had my foot on the brakes, but you never know. Ran perfect. No leaks. No surprises. So now let's get back to where we were. The airplane's done, mostly. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I give you my Vans RV-12iS. And the aircraft is mostly completed. There's a couple things to do on it that are minor, such as weight and balance. There are a couple seals I need to install, but for the most part, the look of the airplane will never change except for when it's painted. It has been a very interesting and challenging 5 years. I started in July of 2014 building, and technically I'm not quite done yet. Of course, the airplane needs to be painted, but not until after it's test flown. I want to thank all my family members for supporting me. My wife, my parents, my uncle, my brothers. All of this could not be done without their help. So I thank you very much. This film is dedicated to your love and help.